Hello, everybody. Today I'm going to go through Inside Yelling issues 11 through 20, as well as the second issue of A Little Inside Yelling, which is like the bonus that I create with every kind of series of these that I make. So you'll notice from the first 10 until now, these issues are a lot more colorful. There's a lot more pages. I'm really starting to experiment with format and things quite a bit more as well. So, yeah, just as I go through these, this one just was kind of inspired by the summertime and watermelons and things. So the cover is this kind of like bright green, and the inside pages are all this just kind of red. And I'm just going to kind of flip through these and talk about pages when things come to mind. But yeah, been finding tons and tons of magazines and different stuff for imagery, and starting to, in this issue, really try to combine found image together, as well as my own photography. So like this photo I took on a walk, and then this can I found somewhere online, and I actually, where I live is near a college, and there's tons of crushed beer cans and stuff everywhere. But this was a statement that was said to me by a friend, and I just typeset this and repeated this because I liked the way the words looked together as I repeated them. And then this was actually a photo of just a shadow of some bench and things that I had found. One of those like rubberized picnic table kind of benches, but I really liked that texture, so I thought the repetition back and forth was interesting to me, so I put that in there. There is some more, just kind of more inspirational stuff or reminders to myself here. I got an image of Babe Ruth that I found in an old National Geographic, and then yeah, this was something I remember saying in therapy. The blame you place on yourself isn't helping you at all. And there's this image of this person cutting an apple, this illustration. And then this center spread was actually inspired by a conversation I had with a friend of mine. And we were just kind of talking on the phone, and one thing that he said to me was like, yeah, I'm never going to wish that I spent more time on my phone. Like, he just had a baby, started a family. I found this image in a photography magazine, specifically from like the 1980s, and it was basically this photo of this guy like just put his baby on the ground and then took a photo, kind of backlit, so his shadow cast. Really, really bizarre. But with the type down here, I found this kind of bubble letter font online, and then I did this kind of extended drop shadow on this specific page to kind of emulate that shadow in the center spread. As we're going through here, I found this kind of cross stitch font, which will pop up a bunch of different times, but I actually had a friend of mine do an illustration for that page of this silhouette of this person wearing some lingerie. I've got some of these like cross-stitched sort of woodpeckers up there and on the bottom as well. And then got one of my all-time favorite pictures here of Tupac. He's, I believe, walking out of court for something. I don't remember exactly it, but he's wearing a Red Wings jersey, which is my favorite hockey team. And then this was another statement that I wrote down in one of my journals, that there's this difference between respect and obedience. And I just remember being a kid and everybody thinking that Tupac was like really bad for TV and for children and all these things. But really now, as I'm older, looking back, I just think that, you know, him and many artists of that era of the 90s kind of hip hop, it really wasn't necessarily about anything except, you know, trying to maintain their own respect and stuff. So whether that was going to go against the grain and rub people the wrong way, it just really didn't matter. So got a few more images here. This was an image from a photography magazine that I had found, and I had inverted. I just really like the expression on this person's face. And then this was actually an image that I found online, some blog site or something, that I inverted as well. Just thinking about sometimes when I know how these are going to get printed with this just kind of cheap like toner on colored paper. I like to invert some images from time to time just because I really enjoy the texture. And then the phrase down here is, yeah, treat strangers like your sister. And I'm just trying to be nicer. Obviously, it's another reminder to myself, more or less, just try to be nicer to people. And as I'm moving through, still at this time making these zines is still really broken up about losing my sister. So there are moments here that are really in reflection about love or that kind of relationship that you have with your family. And then at this backside page here, I've got a flattened illustration of the DeLorean from Back to the Future, and trying to be a little bit more, have some fun and think about things in unique and in different ways. This image, I believe, is from Joan Mitchell, a painting that was one of their really famous abstractions. And I just thought, if I kick that to black and white, I think that's going to end up looking really kind of cool paired with whatever I put next to this, which ended up being this illustration that I found of the DeLorean from Back to the Future that I believe it was Jonas Wood, maybe. But I had cropped this and kind of scrunched it. I really squatted this out, and I just really enjoyed the way that looked. So that gave me some ideas for some other illustrations that I did later. But I wanted to preserve that and include that. And then the back side here, I've just got this like false fact here about deer having like a poison spur, which obviously they don't. But I thought I like the fact that in zines you can kind of make up stories and facts and stuff too. And on the front cover, I got some cobra, this upside down person here kind of yelling. And for number 11, I tried to do a little nod there, a little typographic kind of analogy here with the two L's and then the two number ones for issue 11, and then obviously flipping the eye upside down, making that look like an exclamation point. But as I'm getting into these, you'll see like all of a sudden the format changes quite a bit. So I've got this little smaller version here. This is one of the smaller ones that I made, and this is actually printed on a little bit heavier cardstock paper. So it folds quite a bit differently too. It's not staple bound like the other one. But this very first spread here, I found this image of one of George W. Bush's paintings, and I'm still really, gosh, so torn because I enjoy his artwork so much. And it's, I don't, over the years, it's just really worn me down. And it's like a joke between me and some of my friends who are painters that, like, you know, I just can't make anything as good as George W. Bush. It's like a funny thing we text each other. But then as we're getting through this, I was just kind of falling down, you know, some old nostalgia of some TV guides and stuff, and found this image of, yeah, Steve Urkel. And I just remember this specific episode with Larry Johnson, aka Grandmama, on TGIF, where he was playing basketball, and that was like in the 90s, and it was just always awesome. But and then just reflect on childhood. That was something we'd, you know, stay outside riding our bikes and stuff until lights came on and we'd have to be home. And then this issue actually folds down. So now you have a little bit different of a scenario here where I've got this image of Dale Earnhardt Jr. kind of crawling out of a rubble that I stumbled across online that I thought was incredible. One of his earlier races, I think, before the big kind of Intimidator era. But this text here was a font that I had found, and it said blacked out at the TurboTax 500 and chipped my teeth real good. It really makes me laugh quite a bit as far as like the NASCAR and how everything's sponsored, like even the names of the races and all these things, like anywhere they can put sponsorship, and that just always made me laugh. So thinking about all the ridiculous sponsorships and stuff I've heard listening to NASCAR things when I was a kid. But I'll flip this back over here. One of my students introduced me to Rico Nasty, and so I wanted to pay tribute to her here, and really love her attitude and just like the kind of aggression and playfulness of the music. But then pairing some of these images, not just of her, but of this kind of illustration with this other kind of poem that I wrote, We All Want Love We Don't Have to Ask For, and cutting that out and pasting that down. And then this kind of turns this way, and nothing like the must of a crazy ant's basement. And this just goes out thinking about my childhood and growing up. I got babysat a lot by my aunt and uncle, and I still to this day love the smell of like cigarette smoke and stuff because we just had so much fun. And this image is a bunch of deer that were killed and kind of on like a buck pole, which is like a really classic Midwest prideful thing. Is when you get a deer, you hang it up, and so the town or the city or whoever in the neighborhood can see it. And I just remember that was such a huge part of my childhood as well. So really, this one was just reflecting a lot about childhood, and got some Calvin and Hobbes and some wrestlers in the back here. But as I flip this around, I do have around the time of making this, Meatloaf had passed away, and I was listening to a lot of his music, and I saw this image online. I was like, oh, that's cool. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. What an epic song for karaoke, if any of you were looking for one. But yeah, I've got just the backside. I really like this format of just kind of cutting what I like to call this pant style zine, where you take a normal kind of quadrant fold and you actually cut it or rip it up the middle so that it only has one connection point, so that when you fold it, it just gets this really strange accordion-like fold that is a little bit more peculiar. So there's some more hidden stuff here. I've got a couple pages just tributed to some of my favorite wrestlers as a kid, and my absolute all-time favorite wrestler, Eddie Guerrero here, aka Latino Heat. And I remember how upset I used to get when I was a little kid about, like, people would say wrestling's not real and all these things, and I'd be so upset. But, if wrestling wasn't real, then why were so many of my childhood heroes addicted to drugs and alcohol because of their activity in that profession? If that's not real, then I guess that wasn't either. There was something, I don't know, I was just trying to express some feelings there about, most of my childhood heroes have some very severe addiction issues and stuff, and that always really bummed me out, and how people would just kind of pass off folks' struggles and stuff. So that was number 12. Kind of going back now to number 13. This was like the special horrors edition, where I tried to challenge myself to go pumpkin orange on the outside and then ghostly white pages on the inside, and a lot of stuff in here is more horror themed, and I was really leaning into that when I designed the text here inside Yelling the 13th, kind of a nod to Friday the 13th, but finding some teeth images, some little bats and stuff, and I really tried to sprinkle in as much kind of horror related stuff as I could. Found this image here. I believe this is Pat Cheevers, I want to say, hockey legend, and for every one of his games or things, he would actually, with a marker, kind of make stitches on his hockey mask as a way to intimidate the other team, and also to note like different things, passes and stuff that he did, and that was just kind of his claim to fame. But I thought how badass that was. And I wanted to make sure to include that. But this page was really just kind of thinking about, like all the wild, like, street preachers and different things I've seen, spending so much time on college campuses, and, the allure of some of these individuals, for not just some of my students, but people I know too, that have kind of turned their life over to some nefarious individuals in my mind anyways. But this page here, I found some different ads from some old horror magazines about where you can buy certain masks and things, and then this was some stickers that were done by House Industries, and I just wrote out Candy Kills, and I found this image of this model eating a lollipop there. And then just had some other images. This was like an MRI from, I believe someone had a car accident, but I thought, doesn't anybody, and then car accident or terrible grotesque thing anymore. That was like an odd way to break that up, so I wanted to use this beautiful kind of script with this really gruesome kind of image, and then this image of this model I thought paired really well together because of the value range and stuff. So as I'm going through, I got RoboCop, biggest gun on campus. I was watching RoboCop, I remember, when I was putting this together, and I was like, you know what, I'm gonna make a page about RoboCop. And then finding some information, guns are leading cause of death among American children and teen, and that's was sourced from the Center for Disease and Control, and firearms and stuff are pretty an American kind of thing, but man, it's so wild that there's just nothing seems to happen with much of the laws and things. Just doesn't seem like there's a lot of headway there happening. So, but there is some pages here with the gator teeth again, and then some poison labels, other stuff I cut out of some funny magazines that I thought were just interesting to me. There was an ad that about going to the hospital. It was like, don't die when you can live. And then this here is an image of BJ Penn, UFC fighter. He always had the just most insane like durability and stuff. And I remember this one fight where he had a huge gash over his eyelid, and I remember seeing that when I was younger and thinking like, that's so brutal. And I was just thinking about these things. Go Big or Crash, this image of this person crashing on their bike. I watch a lot of BMX videos and stuff, so sometimes I'll take screenshots and other things. So this image of Salma Hayek is kind of brings us to this page here, which her character in From Dusk Till Dawn, that just like blew my mind, that movie, when I was a kid, and just seeing her on screen, I just remember that was like an awakening for me, of thinking like, I can't believe that people look like that. And it was such an interesting way to use her like sex appeal and stuff as a character. And if you haven't seen that movie, there's a hell of a twist that's coming up in around this time. But her name in that movie was Santanico Pandemonium. So had a huge crush on her for sure. But this is an image that I found in a book about some of the civil rights movements, and these two folks are carrying their child from a burned and bombed building. And I just thought the look on their face, whoever captured this, I wanted to make sure to preserve this and put this in this zine, because to me, there's nothing more tragic than when kids are dying, and it was just such a powerful image that I wanted to try to include here. So, and as we go through, we're still in the horrors edition here. This was as I was looking through MRIs and just all the wild stuff you can find online, I found this image of this X-ray of somebody who had tried to commit suicide by using a crossbow, and the arrow got lodged actually in their head, and they survived, which I thought was just incredible. What a hell of an image. This here was a illustration for a Jeep, and it actually has this silhouette of this person wearing glasses here, which I just thought was a little bit creepy. So I just sort of rode over that, and I illustrated some more dirt and things here. But I thought, man, that's kind of weird. I think I was watching a film too at the time where there was some serial killer character driving around that had glasses, and I thought, oh man, that's just so weird. But as we're going through this, a lot of times some of the images that I'm getting are from like some art forum magazines, or High Fructose, or Juxtapose, and I have a lot of art related and design related magazines and books. Some of them are more anime or early illustrations of Japanese manga and things too, which I like. And but this is just an image of this closet door was open in this kind of mid-century image, and this kind of figure was like either stubbing their toe on these toys, but I thought, what if like that was the boogeyman left that out, and that's why they kept that door open. So I illustrated like a little devil tail in there just for this issue, because I was trying to wrap up and finish this. So, and then this page here, a little bit more subtle, but it says it's okay to be afraid. And I know, just considering when you're coming up with themes for zines, it can be kind of difficult. I know I came back to this one several times through the weeks while I was making all of these. But here I've got Vampirella, iconic character, and then I have some other, just some of these labels and things I got at an old antique store that I just wanted to add and include because they're graphic. sulfuric acid, formaldehyde, just the labels, and I just stuck them on there. But as we get into number 14, this was probably one of the more silly ones, because I was just actually inspired. I was thinking about, well, what else can I do with the format of Inside Yelling at this point, early, in this stage. I thought, well, what about like straight up like hot dog fold, like vertical? Maybe I'll go really tall for one of these, and I'll just take an 8.5 by 11 piece of paper, and I'll make kind of a booklet or brochure size, but it will have long or tall pages. So everything in this, for the most part, is about things that are tall or long or have length or things like that. And I tried to theme this a little bit like a sort of 4th of July, like hot dog competition flyer or something, is what I was thinking of when I was making this. So got this image on the front cover here of this woman. She has the world record, Guinness Book of World Record, longest tongue. And I thought, I'm going to take that into Procreate and make it halftone, and then print it out and then glue it onto my one, and then obviously scanning these pages and making duplicates. But other stuff here, during the summer I was listening to a lot of surf rock, and this one just kind of silly, just says surf rock your cock off. This image of these two people stacked here, and then I was watching some documentaries on skateboarding and how like shameful some of the parents were in the documentary. Really made me laugh, so I just wanted to put that together. But here I'm just telling everybody, leave the skater punks and the buffalo alone. And I guess these few pages are more or less just kind of a response to the stuff that I was watching. I was watching some documentaries about buffalo and skateboarding, and I just trying to make some sort of relationship between the two, and then finding some images of painted like buffalo hides, and then some other like kind of vintage skateboarding magazine imagery, and cutting that up and thinking about how different the fashions and stuff are of that time. But this is just some really long type that I found, some taller condensed type, and this was again another phrase that I flipped through in a journal, and I thought about that idea of like somebody being so like put offish in that phrase of like, I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole, or I wouldn't get near them, or things. And there was an interview with this model. I cannot remember their name. I think it's Harlow something, the last name, Jean. Maybe not Jean Harlow, but she has like vitiligo, and her skin is this really beautiful, like marbled, like pattern. But that was something I remember too writing down, because I was listening to an interview with her talking about how she grew up and people were really afraid to touch her or get near her because they had never seen anyone that looked like her now. But now she's like very famous and well known because of her skin and the way that it looks. So just fascinating. But yeah, I've got a picture here of Bigfoot and two hot dogs, or what was being called to at the time the slang term glizzy. That was going around the internet, which was really funny. A lot of people catching each other trying to eat hot dogs and calling each other glizzy goblins and all these things. And that was just like, I love slang, so I tried to design something to pay homage to that a little bit, and taking a couple photos of some hot dogs on a plate, double barrel, 2 hot dogs in 1 bun. That's what I call it anyways, is a double barrel hot dog. And then we've got Manute Bol and Muggsy Bogues when they were on the Washington Bullets. Both, they had the tallest player and the shortest in the NBA at the time. And just their contrast, this was a really iconic photo. I remember I had this on my bedroom wall. It's on a page of a magazine, and I just thought it was really cool that Muggsy was so short. He's even shorter than I am now, and then Manute Bol is just fascinating to see someone that tall. And I just have some other skateboard imagery here, some other poetry, and trying to invert some images again and play around with repetition. I think this is professional skater Lizzie Armanto, who's, incredible, really, really cool style. And then I've got a really iconic quote here from Deion Sanders, who's up here. And then I found this image in a fashion magazine of this kid all set up with the ball, and then like they must have turned the sprinkler on or something in the background, but the way the light caught it I thought was really, really cool. But this quote was always one of my favorite as far as like sport related things. It says, if you look good, you feel good. If you feel good, you play good. And if you play good, they pay good. And I found this type had some alternates and stuff, so I wanted to connect some things together and design that. So I did that through Adobe Illustrator, then printed it out and then glued it back in here. But it's really kind of classic, sort of cocky attitude of early and maybe still now, Deion Sanders. I know he was coach of the Colorado Buffaloes, I think, for a while. I don't know what he's doing now, but I just always love that quote. And then, yeah, as we're getting into this, found some old images of some yearbooks and stuff, and I thought about people, most likely to be voted certain things, and then like, I don't know, lately some of my friends have been just will text each other, and instead of using any kind of like really harsh terms, we just call each other ding dongs. Just I don't know. I feel like we've called each other every name under the sun over the years, and now we're just kind of to these really basics insults, which is very funny to me too. But and then I remember during when I was making this too, there was a lot of different demonstrations and protests and things going on, and I thought about this class that I had took in college that was specifically all about determining like the differences between protests and riots and demonstrations and different eras and stuff, and it was really, really interesting. And so just was thinking about that for that page. So as we're wrapping up here, just got this image of this kid in this striped shirt. He was eating some kind of summertime dessert or something, and it was the summer when I made this. And I just got this striped shirt. I wanted to kind of offset it a little bit with some zigzag pattern with this kind of full spread moment here of this duck, this kind of American like wood duck or whatever. But on the back I've got an image, Patrick Swayze, nothing in Hollywood is sacred, and I've got all these bees and this little beaver illustration I found. I wanted to preserve that in this alliteration of beaver buzz. I just like the way sometimes words sound in my mouth. But that was number 14. We get into number 15. This one was a little bit different as far as how this opens up and folds. So this was similar to number 12, but it's just a little bit larger. So I printed this on like 11 by 17 paper, and it kind of accordion folds out and folds down. But here we got Bat Boy from those old like kind of newspaper stand things my grandma used to have all the time. Used to scare the shit out of me. But those would just be lying around and have like Bat Boy was discovered in the cave, like those National Enquirer stuff. But still trying to find images of people with their mouth open or yelling or things just in this theme still. And so as we flip into this, got an image of some NASCAR things here, and just other stuff that I found that I wanted to include that I thought was just kind of interesting. This little ad for these things called honeymoon drops from this like women's health book from like the 40s that I had found that I thought was so strange. And then that got me thinking about sex workers, and I have some friends who are sex workers and people that I know. And I just think, it's just, that's, it's definitely a profession, and it's a misunderstood for sure. And thinking about religion and things too. And there was a song I was listening to where they were talking about God, and this artist was talking about God as like being a feminine presence, or actually like using her as like a pronoun to describe God. And so these images are actually from, I believe, this model's like OnlyFans page or something. And then I've got an image here of a character from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. So as I'm going through this, flipping to this page, this image I stumbled on somewhere online where this person had wrote like in Sharpie, and it always makes me cringe when people call women females. It's like, it just makes me cringe. But going to Walmart has always been something that I really struggle with. I think it's probably because of where I grew up, or people that I've known who have worked at Walmart locations or things, and it always gets me really down. It really makes me bummed out. But I also think about too, like, just the positioning of that for myself. Like, if that's really depressing me, is it because I think I'm better than some people who go there, or does it make me reflect on, these huge corporations? Like, why do I feel so bummed? I'm still trying to figure that out to this day. But I've got some imagery on this page that just sort of collected this font of the kind of frozen stuff here. And I like that phrase of like ice yourself out, or like leave yourself alone. I always thought that was an interesting way to say that. So, and I decided to design that based off of a font. And this was actually, when I made this, was far before any of the kind of militant ICE raids and things that are happening or have happened, continue to happen now under Trump's presidency. But I do have the Grand Theft Auto San Andreas little taskbar, health bar stuff up in the corner. Kind of reusing that or recycling that. But opening this up, I just got a little homage to the singer Aaliyah, who passed away when I was a kid, and I just was absolutely in love with her. But this page, I actually had some stickers and stuff for my sisters that I had stumbled on again after visiting, and I wanted to use those and kind of pay homage to Aaliyah. And then as I'm opening this up now, I'm seeing, just kind of how this folded again. So it's been a minute since I've opened this up. I've got this, when I was making this, the Kendrick and Drake kind of back and forth beef sort of thing was happening again. And I was thinking it was really early in the process, and I had no idea what that was going to become. But I was so excited because people were talking about hip hop again, and this idea of like going back and forth through your artwork. And this kind of competitive, and also just I like diss tracks a lot. I like diss records. I just think that's such a cool way to not be violent, instead just like use your brain and make some artwork and tell people how you feel in that way. But I just got an image here of Biggie Smalls, and thinking about obviously his legacy and stuff too. We'll kind of keep flipping here, but I've got this image of this guy holding a big fish, and he seems to be really happy. Now, sometimes when you're fishing, you get really lucky and you come across something like that, and how sometimes it's just lucky when you live happy, or you are happy. It feels like you're being really lucky. And I just got another moment here. Just saying RIP to Prince. And then I got another image of Aaliyah from the same kind of photo shoot that I stumbled on, that I thought was really nice. I can't remember the name of the photographer, but I have the huge book of these hip-hop and R&B images. And then this was just some random different things that I still had left over from making some other zines. So I've got Buffy and another character there from Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and bowling imagery and stuff. And I just like some of these old ads, so I'll use them on the back sides of my pages. But that's number 15. Number 16, I decided to go kind of more horizontal and go all violet pages here. And I miscut these pages, so they're a little bit more raw edge in that way. But I got Bruce Lee on the front here, got this panther, got a Tony Hawk skateboard. And this time, number 16 is just a little more horizontal. And this one doesn't necessarily have a theme. This was just me kind of responding still to what I was doing at the time. And I'm trying to reflect right now as I'm flipping through these, like what I was doing when I made these. I know I get really nostalgic for Detroit Pistons basketball from like when I was a kid and a teenager, and somebody who I thought was always really, really great and had an incredible free throw routine was Richard Hamilton, or Rip Hamilton. And basically, this free throw routines and stuff really are interesting to me because it's that idea of ritual and like locking into a certain system or flow. And he had an incredible free throw ritual that he would do, and then he had a really high free throw percentage, and I just like that image. He would always, right before he took a shot, he would always take a big exhale, and so that's like an image of him taking a big exhale out. And then here I've got a poem that I wrote, or I guess just creative writing, about my friend Javier and his sister, who I was absolutely in love with, Maria. And they moved away. I remember one random Friday, like when I was a kid, and I still think about like what happened to them and where they went, because it was just kind of a mystery. I never really knew, but she could throw a curveball like you wouldn't believe. She would always strike us out and stuff when we were playing baseball. And then yeah, just other images, illustrations, and stuff coming together, trying to pair things together in an interesting way. Got this image here of Dare, the kind of Dare program type, but then I introduced me to Computer Duster, because that was kind of the irony of that program when I look back at that, is that it was supposed to be very much like anti-drug, anti-violence, but then it actually introduced me to a lot of drugs and things that I had no idea about as a kid, and then I ended up trying a lot of these things, and it was really detrimental ultimately during my youth. So Computer Duster was definitely one of them. I also have paired it with this Keith Haring kind of cropped image, and thinking about the, sort of the anti-drug movement in some of the 80s and 90s. But this was really weird, and why I included this was it was a photo ad about how to take a photo of a cat, but the way that they phrase this with this big, like, Hellenic slab serif, I thought was really bizarre. So I said, how to snap a cat. Really, I don't know, but I just interpreted that in a different way. But here I've got these images of these guns and Lock It Up. I read another story I remember during this time. It was a headline or something online where some kid had gotten into somebody's gun cabinet and accidentally shot themselves. Thankfully they survived, but the person didn't have it locked up, so they ended up actually going to prison. And then this image I found in a bird hunting magazine, and it just happened to be, for whatever reason, in that image it looked like that the guy was aiming the gun at the dog. And so I don't know if I would imagine that's probably not, it might have just been a coincidence, right, when they took that photo. But I found this word prefer in some other magazine, and so I decided to write, I'd prefer if you didn't aim your gun at my dog, fucko. And again, the older I get, the more sensitive I am about, any kind of violence and stuff. And I just thought, I would probably scream that at that guy if I was there trying to take that photo. And then this being super lucky stings. And then there's this image of this kid next to this beehive here with his big swollen face because he's been stung a bunch of times. This was in a beehive, like, beekeeper's handbook that I had got at a thrift store. And then this type was a mixture of some of the house industry stickers plus other advertisement that I had found and cut out. I think this was for Lucky Strike or something, and I just loved the way that L looped. And the super was I remember it was like for a dishwasher thing, and then I put a bunch of star-shaped stickers. So this was an image by Micah Carter that I stumbled on. It's more of a contemporary photographer that I really like. But I wanted to kind of use or crop that image a little bit differently than he did. And this, I don't know, for whatever reason, the look on this person's face just kind of reminded me of my sister Renee. And I just found some of these heated letters, no guts, no glory, no serenade, and that was something that I had wrote down, and I tried to find some words or some type that would go along with that. And then this page was just really dedicated to the kind of unfiltered internet access that I would have at some of my friends' houses in the early 2000s, and how the internet was very, very different. And thinking about some of those, like, really disgusting beheading videos and stuff that I know I shouldn't have watched. And just the effect that the ultra-violent kind of stuff had on me as a kid, because there was just I didn't really, not that I didn't have, people watching out for me, but I had a lot of free time, and I was very mischievous and stuff when I was a kid, so it was not, I'm trying to say here, it was not unlikely for me and some of my buddies just to be like huddled around the computer with the slow ass internet and like looking up terrible shit. And like, I just remember the day that we found like Bloody Disgusting and gore.com and all these like really weird early websites that were just places that housed violent videos, and we didn't know if they were real or not even back then. It felt like Faces of Death sort of, but some of these I know had to have been real. And thinking about the early 2000s and kind of where we were with the war on Iraq and this idea of like the Taliban, and I didn't understand these things because I was like 9, 10 years old, and being kind of scared of all of that was just really kind of bizarre. So I just wanted to make a spread about that. And so this image was from a book about raising skunks as pets, which I thought was really cool, but also strange. And then I just thought how funny it would be if this skunk was like giving this guy advice about his job. So I kind of made this like little illustrative, like little cartoon quote bubble exchange back and forth. And then here's another image from that same book where they're holding the skunk upside down. Got this image, No Gods, No Masters, of this kid. It's like a book on breakdancing, and I just thought that was like a cool pose. The text was really nice. And then these two were in a magazine, kind of on opposite pages, so I cut them out in a different way and used some like classic 1990s like coffee shop style text. It says, why can't we all just do the little things if they mean so much? And then just kind of on this end page here, this was an ad. Do you like art? Draw for money. And it had like this ad for artists of looking for folks who knew how to draw very well. And they would send you a book. And then there was another ad in there. And then on the very back, I just love this photo. And this was, I think, on the cover of this book about raising skunks. It was a skunk and this like little Boston Terrier or whatever this little dog is. And then there was a day where I was just coming up with live, laugh, love synonyms or other salty takes on that. So this was one that I landed on that I thought was kind of funny. Live, laugh, launder money. Sometimes my brain, I have to like let out all these strange takes on sayings and stuff. So I remember I had a whole page in my journal. It was just like live, laugh, and then there was some kind of action. And I was just trying to exhaust all these ideas because it's like my brain, I got like fixated on that. But number 17, Inside Yelling 17, is actually the rodeo edition. So this was another kind of first themed ones in my series. And this is all themed about Western rodeo things and country music and all this kind of stuff that I'm not really super well aware of, but I think is really interesting. And I do have a respect for, but I also can point at it and laugh about some of the things because I'm very much an outsider looking in on this. But we got this image of Dolly Parton here. Got some rope type, which is always hilarious to me. And then I actually took a photo of a Western like pearl snap style shirt that I had and put that on the background. And then this specific zine I printed in color, only the way that I edited all the images is once I scanned the original zine, I just put a gradient map on everything from like this burnt orange to this like lighter tan color. So all of the black values were turned into this orange and everything else. So that made it feel a little bit more summer or a little more humid in my hands. But here I've got this illustration I did of the snake or the sneck, as commonly referred to sometimes on the internet. And then just this is a double fold out cover where I've got this model in here from a magazine that I half-toned, It's American West, The Last Rodeo, some bandanas, some other illustration going on here. And then this interlocking, Texas is my first and last rodeo. And then I've got this cowboy that I found somewhere. So you'll kind of notice too, as I'm going through these first probably 20 issues, is so much of the imagery and things is appropriated, and I'm finding these and I'm collecting this stuff and I'm trying to take them out of their original sources and do something different with them of how they were originally used or meant to be used, which I find as an interesting challenge as an artist and designer. So I've got some screenshots here from Blazing Saddles. This specific quote in this part always makes me laugh so much. But I've got this image, really weird image of Dolly Parton and this rabbit. I think this was for like a Playboy ad or something back in the day, but man, that rabbit is so creepy. But yeah, long live Dolly for sure. This was an image I was talking to a friend about. He was celebrating something about, I think it was his uncle's like gang that he was affiliated in, and this other crew that he grew up around had like a truce day where they would actually like tie their bandanas together, which was like a symbolic thing. And I thought, oh, that's like really interesting, but also like very cute to me, and just really gentle for as violent as the history of those two were. So I found an image online of some folks doing that, and I wanted to include that. And I used some type here that kind of reflected some of the stories and stuff that I was watching that had to do with this. So got a couple other Western-like images. Got a picture of like Annie Oakley, and then JBL from WWF when he had the neck brace, but also the hat, the cowboy hat on top of the neck brace, which was a total farce, but God, that was incredible. And I said, I have to include that. Some of these borders and stuff you see in this issue are from bandanas and stuff that I scanned in the computer. So here I've just got a collection of Yosemite Sam and this American traditional tattoo, but then I put a hat on it. And then this was a couple of different images strung together from a kind of a classic Western comic that I had bought at an antique store for like $1 that I just thought was really, really great. So this person was like tied to the back of a horse, and then there was a guy roping some kind of buffalo in another page, and I just slammed them together, showing some action here. And then this was thinking about the word dude and kind of like where that comes from, and people that say it that I think are interesting, including the Ninja Turtles. But these phrases are all from somewhere else, you know. But during this time, Beyonce released kind of a country record, you would say, very much so, Cowboy Carter, and it was awesome. I thought it was great, and people fucking hated it. And I thought, gosh, that really sucks that we can't get over this like weird gatekeeping or these boundaries and stuff within these musical genres still to this day. But yeah, also, yeah, just thinking about the whole shift in mood and style of Beyonce at the time. That's an image of her. And then got this rodeo image here that I found. Just kind of flipping through. Got some images here of Norm Macdonald as Burt Reynolds on SNL with the big foam hat. Some more rodeo imagery, and then just a quick story that's either fabricated or made up. I'll let you decide here, but very, very funny. Got another image here of a Dare kind of designed thing here. You'll see this in a few other zines later down the road, but yeah, Dare introduced me to the pass out game and this idea of crooked cops. I remember we had a meeting with some police officers in my town, and they said, you know, some folks, if you go to a big city, there'll be cops there that want to do harm. And I was like, living in rural Michigan, going like, what are you talking about? Like, this is the weirdest shit I've ever heard. But again, that small town mentality versus larger cities and stuff, and that's kind of how it was always pivoted when I was growing up, was anything that happens outside of these small towns is going to be bad. But really, it was just people were afraid of stuff they don't understand, you know. But then I just have a lot of these images of these rodeo things because I'm living in Idaho currently, and there's a lot of stuff out there to watch, to get a hold of. So this was just a homage to Garth Brooks and his really bizarre, his really strange like YouTube and TikTok presence is really weird. And I know that there's some very popular podcasts and stuff that like get into this, but yeah, he's a strange individual. To being that famous, I think's got to mess with your brain. Yeah, and I just have some other images here, some illustrations, some bandana, and I got this cool image of this like little spider monkey on this dog's back. They would have, apparently in this magazine, they would have like these like little monkeys or chimpanzees would like get on the back of horses, and that used to be a thing they would do in the rodeo a lot. I don't know if they still do, but really very, very strange. But yeah, that was issue 17, the rodeo edition, which was really super popular. I was pumped when I released this. People really took off, and really I had a lot of good positive feedback about that one. So issue 18, I only have a couple more issues left here to go over, but issue 18, Inside Yelling 18, and I've got a bunch of things that are yelling. So I've got still image from a kung fu movie, got this dog that's like mid yawn, Chris Farley, Beverly Hills Ninja, and then obviously the iconic kind of Trans Am Firebird image or whatever that is. And then this one, going back to earlier, I still had some paper, some green paper left, but I ran out of the red interior pages, so I decided to use like a pink. So this was more or less kind of inspired by like strawberries or other things too, just the color combo. But I enjoyed a lot what I did on the rodeo edition with the fold out cover, so I wanted to repeat that here. So this folds out, and yeah, just thought that was a cool challenge to do. And again, this still image from some kung fu, kind of tiger claw stance, open hands. And then this, again, just a collection of a lot of stuff I was responding to, thinking about how much I absolutely hate getting a sunburn, and just, yeah, nothing's better than not getting a sunburn. And then considering too some of the skate videos and stuff I used to watch a lot, sometimes when I get nostalgic, or I get if there's absolutely nothing on, like, or I want to put something on in the background while I'm working, a lot of times I'll put on skate videos or BMX videos, and Stevie Williams was like the coolest dude I'd ever seen when I was a kid, and I wanted to be like that guy in the same really epic image of him. I think he's rolling a blunt on the bottom of his skateboard, and I just always thought that was so badass when I was a kid. And here I've just got this list of things, how you can support artists. Another reminder to myself here, drink more water, thirsty bitch. This was an image that I had found, I think, or maybe I took a photo of this, where the person did a hand-lettered, almost like black letter sign for some property, and I thought, man, that's so nice. Like, the lettering was so cool. But that was done by hand. And then little homage to Tank Girl here. I remember reading some Tank Girl comics and stuff when I was a kid, and then like the film version came out, and with, I think, Lori Petty. But I always thought, like, man, that was so cool. I wanted to be just like Tank Girl, because there's like total destruction and like full freedom of expression and stuff too. And the style of that comic was always really, really interesting to me, because it was like post-apocalyptic, but I had never seen anything like that before. And the vehicles were really cool. Got some other moments in here about giving back. Got some other rodeo images, paying homage to that last issue, coming back. And then talking to some of my friends, again, thinking about sex work and how complex that can be for them. And so I wanted to kind of shout out, and they were telling me that there was a couple of people that had DM'd them and like some pretty harsh stuff, because they apparently had lost all their money to their certain OnlyFans accounts or something, and they were trying to, this person was down so bad, and they were trying to like sue this, person, and I don't know, it was really, really strange. It sounded like a headache to me, but I got this page that kind of folds out to like that classic sort of centerfold idea, and thinking about if I could do that in a zine, what would that look like? And then, so this is an inverted image. I've got this down here. It's like, I know people who went broke subscribing to OnlyFans. And then Santa, this Coca-Cola image, but taking the text out and putting some different text there. And then, yeah, just some other warped type and stuff too, thinking about reflections of therapy and summer camp memories too, and all the stuff gets kind of jumbled around. So I have to express these things and get them out somehow, because otherwise they're just rumbling around in my mind. So as I'm going through this, there's just I love collecting stickers, and so some of these are stickers of animals and things, or photos of different people I've seen online or I've met in person, or people would send me to. I have some friends that will send me like photos that they want me to include. Then this image of this like frog was on some meme or something that I cropped out. And then I love that phrase of feeling froggy is really fun to me. I remember hearing that sometimes when I was growing up. But this was a Godzilla image here, and then this image or this little article from Mookie Wilson, who was like a legendary left fielder. But this was a direct quote from him, which always cheers me up when I read it, so I want to make sure to share this with all of you. When I'm in a slump, I comfort myself by saying, if I believe in dinosaurs, then somewhere they must be believing in me. And if they believe in me, then I can believe in me, and then I bust out. And that always cheers me up. Got Elvira, another moment here. Elvira sunk my battleship. Got these folks in some compromising positions. This was like taken from an old yearbook. I don't know what these folks are doing. I think there's some paddle or something involved. It might be a tradition, we'll call it quote tradition thing happening. I really don't know. But I just thought that image was really peculiar. Got this other fold out here. Got some custom type, cranked up twerk songs. Yeah, I just love the format of these zines and being able to make whatever you absolutely want to make. So this is something I try to remind myself a lot in the hyper-competitive world of making artwork, and being around colleges and universities a lot, and how competitive everybody is, it seems like, with each other. It's just, for me, I just need to make sure that I always remember it's just me versus me, and that's forever and forever. So, and there's no rematches. You only get one game, and that's your life, so just trying to remember those things. But so we get into issue 19. This was a little more freeform. I wanted to experiment with the binding here. This is like really the first one that doesn't have staples or just naturally is folded. This is just rubber band bound. So there's just a rubber band that loops through these larger pages. And this was the blue, kind of the cooler offset version from those earlier issues. And I just wanted to print this in color with just only blues. I think, if looking back now, critiquing this, if I could have risograph printed this or figured out a way to silkscreen print this or have someone do that for me, because that process can be intensive, I probably would have done that looking back. But this is all just found images and added illustrations and text that are all just kind of mixed up. So some of the pages are upside down, and I did that on purpose. Some of them are fully, sourced from other places. The ocean is too big. This is just some other ideas I have about, freaks me out that there's all these strange things in the ocean that we don't understand. Flipping pages around. Remember these extremely weird bird books. I always thought antlers are really strange, so this is just me saying that. Obviously you can probably get an idea from a lot of these pages. Like, I'm not trying to, split the atom, folks, like with my work. I'm just trying to express myself, and whether you like that or not, or you think that's funny, like, that's awesome. If you do, if you don't, that's okay too. Just flipping these around, trying to explore some repetition and some typographic challenges here, flipping these things and doing some custom type, and just using images and stuff that I really enjoy. Like, they're really striking. A lot of times, often I'm selecting images because I either wish I would have taken that photo, or I want to make sure that I'm saving this image somehow through, reusing them or repurposing them in some of these zines. Got a little moment here to Buffy the Vampire Slayer, which when I was growing up, I had no idea what lesbians were until I watched Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I learned all about vampires and love between people and interesting team dynamics. And I love Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I know there's a whole genre and era of zines that are out in the world that are Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like fanzines from the 90s that are highly collectible and stuff too. But I just, I wanted to kind of make my contribution to that a little bit. But yeah, one of my all-time favorite television shows for sure. And then I've got this, during this time of making this, I remember there was like that joke about birds not being real or birds being government cameras and spies. And so I was doing these little bird illustrations, which conspiracy things are really curious to me. And then flipping around, just using some baseball love here. Used a bunch of the baseball logos to think about this idea of like stolen bases, but also stolen land. And America has this pastime of things, and the way we even like, I just thought it was curious of how, whoever came up with this idea of like stealing a base, it's such an inherent part of American culture, is stealing things, I feel like. And I want to make sure that I don't forget that. Like, that stuff's buried into these games and things that I like. And this is just a really great quote. Ricky Henderson, like notoriously spoken third person, an incredible baseball player, but really bizarre kind of individual. And that's just one of my favorite quotes from Ricky Henderson. And then, just have this stuff here. And this is around the time, if I remember correctly, when I was making this is around the time Donald Trump started talking about war, and it really started to freak me out, thinking about obviously having basically my entire childhood and into my early college years with the, Iraqi freedom conflicts and all these, call these things what you want, these wars that went on and on and on. And I had friends that were enlisted, and all these things that just really freaked me out. And thinking about how long that those can take place. And so I said, fuck war. Why does peace seem so grim? And I found this like heavy metal type, and just thinking about how bummed out I was to considering that might be happening again when I was making this. But number 19. And we're getting into issue 20, which was a special one. This was like the most pages at this point in the series. This was also the first one that I did that was fully in color. So it was almost an exact one-to-one replication of my like starter zine. This is exactly kind of how this looked. And then for this, I did get I had to upgrade my sewing machine because I was doing a lot of different work with the sewing machine. So I decided to take some like thread, I think what they called rainbow thread, and I stitched these all together instead of stapling them or things. So now I'm really starting to consider this idea of binding and where this could go at this stage. So one thing I will say about this issue is that I did not foresee or did not calculate correctly the cost of what this was going to do, because I printed double-sided and in color, and my local printer, I just didn't factor that in. So that was a big hit that I took to print these on this specific issue. So, which ended up being worth it ultimately, but I was like, oh, I'm never going to make that mistake again. So still, even as a professional, there are some things that slip through. I'm a one-man machine. I'm a one-person team for the most part. And these are things I got to slow myself down a little bit. But this is issue 20. And we're going to get into this. So I've got one of my absolute all-time favorite stand-up moments here at Bernie Mac. If any of you go on YouTube and you find the I ain't scared of you motherfuckers bit is incredible. And him basically winning over a huge crowd at the Apollo after everybody ahead of him was bombing. And it's just some other images that I had taken, some that I had found, other classic kind of car imageries with just other type and stuff I'm throwing in there. God, this GPT was just kind of getting started when I made this, so everyone was freaking out about the potential of that. And I immediately thought, like, when it becomes sentient, like, will people be complaining that ChatGPT stole their parking space and got their sister pregnant and hooked on fentanyl? Fentanyl just started become kind of hot topic in the news around this time too, and it was kind of strange to me thinking about there's always another drug on the horizon that's like going to get all the headlines and things, and but watching a documentary about Evel Knievel, and I love this quote, so I was like, I gotta find an image of Evel Knievel and kind of tone it a little bit different way and make it feel a little different. But man, what a daredevil type of character. And then I have, just some other like kind of comic bits here of what's fun for me to do at times is like you find an image or you get given an image and then you try to come up with a story or something to make it make sense or take it out of its context or cut the advertisement out of it and then make a comic or a quote bubble. And that's really like can be seen obviously as like super lowbrow, but I just enjoy doing that. It's a fun challenge for me, so this is what this is about. And then I've got an image here of this like station wagon, and I have a story up here from my childhood about my mom's station wagon kind of just exploding in the driveway. I remember like the muffler or something happened with the engine and it blew up and it started on fire like immediately when we were all in the car. We were warming it up to go to school, I remember, in the wintertime, and yeah, it was a pretty crazy situation. But and then I had got this type, I think from kernclub.com, this like beautiful kind of black letter type, but the way that they were using it was for like some religious like signs or something. But I thought how funny it would be if you took this really elegant type and you put something kind of funny or disgusting with it. So it says stained glass windows and shart stained sweatpants. And a shart, for any of you, if you've made it this long in the video, a shart for any of you is when you fart but shit comes out instead. So that's what a shart is. And then I've got the stained glass illustration here. It says the Father, the Son, the Holy Shit on there. And I did that with Sharpie. Here is a spread all about my love for Lethal Weapon and for the Predator films, but also my own conspiracy theory about, during the 90s or the early 90s, late 80s, a lot of the same actors were being cast in a lot of roles because that's what we do. When we love seeing certain folks in movies, but Gary Busey was on a heater, so was Danny Glover. They were getting a lot of roles. And so thinking about both of these films, Predator 2 and Lethal Weapon, they were in both of those actors, and how I thought, man, wouldn't that be funny if there was like a crossover, or you could go back in time and have like, Mel Gibson's character interact with the Predator, like how bizarre that would be. But also just a funny thing that I came up with one day when I was drinking a little too heavy, and I wrote down in a journal like these movies are connected. And so I just made up kind of a story and had some illustration that I did over top and flipped some images and things too. But next page here is all about Pat Summitt, and this was the first time I started thinking about this series of zines, Inside Yelling, and whether or not I could sponsor events with this headline or this tagline of Inside Yelling. And so this got me thinking about other things. But Inside Yelling free throw competition, Pat Summitt, it's kind of all-time win percentage or win record coach. And I watched a documentary about her and her life, and it was just really inspiring. So I wanted to find some images of basketball, and I had all these yellow stickers and things to use. And I got a quote from Audre Lorde here. I'm deliberate and afraid of nothing. That's an image of them. We've got some other stuff here, thinking about, again, being nostalgic, thinking about childhood and VHSs and the fall. I really I miss the fall season a lot. Got some other imagery here. I wanted to see, one of the experiments I did here was I wanted to see how the reflection of these stickers would show up if I scanned them. Like, would they look like they're still shiny or sparkly, or would, obviously the motion's gone, right, because it's just a still image, but It did pick up the light like as the scanner went over top of this image, so that was really great. Dress codes are bullshit. Here's a image that I drew when I was a kid of a lowrider that I wanted really bad. So I found some old images of childhood drawings and stuff that I wanted to include in this one. And this was one of them as well. Hulk Hogan that I drew when I was a little kid. And then I've got an image of Eddie Guerrero here again. Get more and more nostalgic about professional wrestling as I get older, because it's just something that took me out of everything that I had going on as a kid. When I would be able to watch those at my friend's house or whatever, it just was a completely different world than what I was watching for sure. But had some cool sumo dreams. I still do have some sumo related dreams and stuff where I'm a sumo wrestler. Yeah, and I just got some other dare related stuff here. There was these guys in my undergrad that I just will never forget, because they were in a few of my different like gen ed classes, and they were all studying like criminal justice, and they just were all such so mean and rude and stuff, and they were all going to be police officers, and they would like brag about how much scholarship money they got and all this stuff like in class. It was so gross, and I just was just thinking about that and considering that one night, so I wanted to make a page spread about it. And just me using up the last little bit of those house industry stickers, but putting out there in the world too, like, do what you want with your own body. Like, it's your body, do what you want with it. There's so much critique and stuff about what people do with themselves, and I just wish everybody leave each other alone at some point. And then here I got this quote from Angela Davis, who I was reading a lot about, and just looking into more as well. Just really interesting individual. And here, finding some more border imagery and illustrations, like clip art kind of style stuff. And I took a photo of my local laundromat, added that in here. And then I've got this image of these little bears down there. Trying to remind myself to take more time. Here, I was just thinking about like how sad I was when Robin Williams passed away, and I just wanted to make like a little page design that kind of looked like a memorial or something. And I do that in a few other issues at Inside Yelling in the future, of different people that I thought really had an impact on, like, I didn't know them at all, obviously, but I knew like of their work, and feeling like, wow, that's really fucking sad that person died. And then this is just another homage to sumo wrestlers. And then considering too, like the arcade when I was a kid had this game Streets of Rage, and the health, to give you more health, a cooked turkey would show up on the sidewalk. You'd have to walk over to it, and it would engage your health. And I just always thought that was really crazy, really, really, really wild. Andrew Dingus. Look up Andrew Dingus, folks, okay? Just look it up. Don't break the cactus. And for this, I put my own hand down in the middle finger. And that was something I remembered when I was in the Southwest with a buddy of mine. As we were driving, there was all these cactus obviously everywhere. I'd never seen one before in real life, and I just thought so many of them looked like they were just giving you the middle finger. And I wrote that down in a journal, so I wanted to make a page about that. It's really funny. And I guess in some cultures, breaking cactus is like it's bad luck. So I'm really sensitive to not do that if I ever see a cactus. Like, I don't know why people do that, but And then here at the end, I'm evolving a little bit and thinking about the potentials of Inside Yelling, and whether that's going to potentially in the future become a bait or beauty shop, or bait and beauty shop, which I think would be cool. And then I just made like a little advertisement sign to kind of emulate some of these other signs and stuff that I would find in the backs of magazines and TV guides and antique printouts and stuff too. And I took this image of this this fish, and I found an image of someone with what's called a wolf cut, this like style, this haircut. And I put that on a bass, and I thought that's really kind of funny to me. So I'm going to use that. But yeah, having fun with my design skills and making myself laugh a lot of times is really what I'm doing too with a lot of these issues or certain pages. So 1-800 I'm a fucking ding dong. Again, thinking about the insults of my friends and stuff too. So, but that's issue 20, the very last one here. We've got Inside Yelling, Little Inside Yelling 2, and this was just kind of a quick mini zine that I throw in for free for each one of these editions that I put out, kind of 10 at a time. And this is, again, another one in color. And ultimately, some of these pages were going to go in issue 20, but then I ended up scaling them down for this because I had already gotten to the page count for that was already getting pretty hefty. So I just wanted to, with what I had left over, I made a small kind of zine just to showcase some of the extra stuff that I had left over, things that I collected. This little banana sticker, this little banana lady. And then when you flip this open, this just has a little ad for, Inside Yelling Bait and Beauty Shop, beauty salon. And so that's kind of what that looks like, just a small sort of version. So, but yeah, thanks for watching this, and I'll go ahead and stop the video.